Welcome to the Prima Advanced User Forum. This is Mike. I'll be your host today. Today's forum will be on deleting lines from sales orders. We're going to go over how to delete lines from sales orders based on the module it has progressed to and the status of that line within its respective module. I'm going to place everyone on mute, but Tyler will be available on chat to answer your questions during the presentation. We will, of course, open the floor for questions afterwards as well. At that point, you'll be able to unmute yourselves. We just ask that you wait till afterwards to do so that there's no background noise. So jumping right in, deleting a line from a sales order. As a rule of thumb, always remember to go to the furthest point of progression and then delete backwards from there, keeping in mind that a line cannot be deleted once it is marked as dispatched. That's the point of no return. Once it's marked as dispatched, it cannot be deleted back. We're going to go over those options as well. So also remember to use the links button within your sales order to jump from the sales order to the specific module that the line needs to be deleted from. And we're going to touch on that in depth. So first, let's look at the common scenarios where you will need to remove a line from a sales order. Then we're going to go a little deeper into each module and address some specific statuses. So in the first scenario, we're going to look at an item that is marked as dispatched or invoiced. Again, in this case, it cannot be deleted. So if you see your sales order here, status is invoiced. And as we mentioned, we know this can't be deleted. So in this case, what we have two options. We can either create a customer return and credit. In this case, the customer has received the goods. So we want to do a return and credit. Of course, there is a forum and help desk article on that as well. The second option would be if you don't need to adjust the stock or do a customer return, you can create a sales invoice, zero out the invoice, so the customer won't receive it. Now, in the opposite case, a line is not marked as dispatched. And we're just going to touch on that. So basically what we're going to do is if it's not marked as dispatched, there's an invoice, we can just delete it back from the invoice to the sales order. So in this case, we just want to delete any outstanding invoices. If it is posted, administrators can move it back to outstanding. After that, we want to delete any outstanding dispatch notes, delete the purchase order, or deallocate if the item is coming in or already received in the stock. And then we can delete the line from the sales order. And if we look at this example here, we see the pick status indicating that it's still on an open dispatch node. And if we go to our links, we can link directly to that in transit open dispatch node from there. So now let's take a more detailed look at deleting lines in each module. I'm going to go over a few scenarios here. The first one we're going to look at is an item that is in a requirements requested status. So we see our line status is requested. If we double click into that line, that takes us to our links tab. Our lines tab. Once from here, we can go to our delivery details here at the bottom. You have two options. You can either delete the quantity or adjust the quantity, or highlight the line and just hit the trash can to delete it altogether. You also notice here that you have a quantity available, which shows you what you have on hand here in this case, where you can allocate or change your quantity if that's what you choose to do. Next up, we're going to take a look at a line with the status is allocated on a sales order. Again, identifying the allocated status, double clicking into our line. And this is just as simple as going into our deallocate button here. And once it's deallocated, we go into our delivery details tab. Again, you'll see a pattern here: adjust quantity or trash can to delete altogether. Next up, we're going to take a look at an item on an outstanding purchase order. So this status on the sales order will show as requested. So again, we're going to double click into our line. From here, we want to link to our purchase order using our links tab. Once we're inside the purchase order, go to your lines tab, extension tab at the bottom, highlight the line, click delete. We'll confirm yes. You can link back to the sales order. In this case, we can just go back to it, do a quick refresh. And again, delivery details, adjust quantity, or delete. You see the status has now been moved to archived because this was the only line item on there. Next up, we're going to take a look at an item that is on a completed purchase order and it's on an open receipt note. In this case, we're looking at a scenario where the item is still expected but has not arrived yet. Notice that the status for the line is ordered. So we're going to use our links again by clicking into the line, linking to the purchase order. Now, you could have linked directly to the receipt note as well. Just want to get you in the habit of following all of your links. So we'll go to our lines tab here. Linking directly from the sales order to our purchase order. I'm sorry, to our receipt note. Once we're inside the receipt note, the line's highlighted, just hit the trash can to delete. We'll complete that. Just to close it out. You see that takes the links away as well. And again, following the concept of deleting backwards, now we want to go to our purchase order. Highlight, delete. Oops, sorry. Extensions tab. And delete. I just want to make a note here. At this phase, you want to delete twice if the item is not coming in at all from the vendor. Delete once if you want to set the item is coming into your stock. And also keep in mind that the item is not deleted from the sales order, it will remain in requirements. So that question comes up a lot. If people were wondering why it's still in requirements, it will remain there assuming that you still want to purchase it unless you delete it off of the sales order. So in this case, we're going to delete twice from our extensions tab, of course. Back to our sales order. And once again, we have the option to adjust quantity or delete. In this case, we'll just delete it to archive the order. Okay, in the next scenario, we're going to take a look at an item on a completed receipt note. And notice because that receipt note has been completed, this line status is allocated. So we want to hit the deallocate button in this case. Same scenario, adjust quantity or hit the delete. Now, if it's on a completed receipt note, the item has arrived from the vendor. In this case, we can deallocate it, but it will remain in your stock. Next up, we have an item that is on an outstanding dispatch note. Sales order will show a status of picked. If we link to that dispatch note using your links, you see it's in transit. So it will show picked on the sales order, in transit in the dispatch note. It's still open. From within the dispatch note, we're in our lines tab, and we just want to hit the trash can once the line is selected. One other thing I wanted to touch on in this case, you notice right here, there's a return to stock. Well, you take that if you want the stock to be deallocated from the customer and returned into your inventory. If you want the stock to remain allocated to the customer, do not tick the return to stock box. In that case, it will remain in dispatch available lines, awaiting for the next dispatch note. Quantity is changed to 0, indicating that it has been deleted. In this case, we do want to go ahead and mark that as dispatched just to close that out. And once again, we go back to the sales order, following it all the way back, adjust quantity or delete. So that does it for the actual scenarios, but I do want to just kind of close on a couple of notes here. Just keep in mind, if an item has been marked as paid, and I'll show you how to identify that in the sales order header tab. Sales order, header detail, your payment status is here. So if an item has been marked as paid, but the item is not marked as delivered, you can delete all the way back to the sales order. A credit will auto-generate when you delete the item off the sales order. So if we go to our lines, links, you see the sales invoice is outstanding. We delete that off. Let's post the sales invoice first. So in this instance, you do have to go to the lines delivery details and change the quantity to 0. This is the only case where the trash can is not the option. So I'm going to change that from 1 to 0. And once I did that, you'll see that the sales credit is automatically generated and popped up just to confirm. Go ahead and complete that. And on a final note, I wanted to point out that if an item is marked as prepaid, and again, that's identified in your header details tab within the sales order, keep in mind that the money will not be taken from the customer's card until the item is dispatched. So it can, at that point, still be deleted without a credit. And that's for your paid or externally paid statuses. For prepaid items, the card payment is only taken once all items on the sales order have been marked as delivered. So when an item is removed, the payment will be taken once the remaining items have been delivered. In other words, if you have 4 items on the sales order, 3 of them has been marked as delivered, 1 is still outstanding, and you delete that. Once that outstanding line is deleted, it will automatically take the payment at that point. So in conclusion, I just want to remind you again to always remember to use your links and go to the furthest point of progression and delete backwards from there. And keep in mind that a line cannot be deleted once it's marked as dispatched. And that does conclude our forum for today. We will now open the floor for questions.